Hello, everyone. Welcome to Environmental Peacebuilding Association's initiative called Spotlight. And in this series, we are exploring people and stories behind environmental peacebuilding. And today, we are thrilled to have McKenzie Johnson, who is an assistant professor at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. McKenzie, welcome to Spotlight.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you. And I cannot wait to ask my first question. So could you please start by telling us about your current job?
So I am currently an assistant professor of natural resources and environmental sciences at the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign. My research program currently includes a NASA-funded project in Colombia on environmental peacebuilding. And then since coming to the University of Illinois, I've focused my research program more on issues in the United States, which is a first for me. I've mostly been a kind of global scholar outside of the United States. And so have been looking at energy conflict and energy justice in the context of the United States, and then also looking more at some agricultural issues in the US.
Wow. So it's a very interesting career. So there is no other question appeared to me other than how did you choose this career path? What was the motivation behind it?
I don't think I chose this path. I think this path chose me. So I did a master's in conservation biology at Columbia University. I was very, very interested in biology and environmental science. And I think I was one of the people who wanted to save wildlife. I was always really concerned with biodiversity and environmental issues since I was really young for whatever reason. And so I came out of Columbia, and there was an opportunity in Afghanistan with the Wildlife Conservation Society, which really appealed to me. And so it was actually on a project to work on a transboundary protected area. And this was at the time when peace parks were really becoming a thing. And so WCS was envisioning, it was a peace park between Afghanistan, China, Tajikistan, and Pakistan. And they were envisioning this as a transboundary peace park, essentially. And so I went to work on that project, and it didn't work out because it was just too unstable and volatile at the time. But they ended up offering me a long-term position in Afghanistan. And so I started working on environmental policy in a very much conflict-affected setting, and that sparked an interest, right? I thought for sure I was going to be a biologist and stay in the realm of conservation biology, but the questions that on the social science end ended up being much more interesting to me about how environment fits into these kinds of settings. And so ultimately decided to switch paths at that point and ended up really enjoying research. And so kept going into the academy, which we can talk more about later, if that was a good choice or not. I still kind of think about it, but I do enjoy research. And so I think it was part choice on my part that I ended up here, and part just kind of the accidents of life.
Wow. So, I mean, switching to careers and going to the field and do some research and experience, it's very interesting, but it's also comes with its own challenges. What kind of challenges you were facing while conducting all this work?
It is a very challenging line of work. And so I was thinking about this question, and I think the biggest challenges I faced have been all in the transitions, right? When I'm finishing up one project in one place and it's time to move on, either because there's no more funding or the project is ending. And so I think one of the hardest times in my life was when I finished up. I was finished in Afghanistan, and it was what I didn't know what came next. And so I was 28, turning 29 at the time, right? I had been on my own, living in Afghanistan, traveling a lot, really earning a good salary for the first time in my life. And now it was over, and I had to figure out what came next. And so I ended up moving home with my parents. And that was really hard, right? Because everyone around me, my friends were finishing medical school, and they were becoming lawyers, and people were getting married and having families. And I was like, what do I do with my life? And So there was everything on the table. It was like, do I go back and try and, do I go back to medical school? Do I go become a veterinarian? Do I like stay on this path? Because I was in a position where I was applying for jobs and I had so much experience for that. A lot of the jobs were like, you have too much experience for this kind of job, but I didn't have enough experience for others. And so it was just a really strange place to be. And so finally decided to go get a PhD after thinking long and hard about it, that this was something I wanted to continue doing. But it was a really tough decision. And that was a really strange and difficult period of time. And that still happens when I'm finishing up projects and you're not quite sure what the correct next step is. And I think those are really difficult because there's no set path like there might be if you study and become a doctor, right? There's always a foreseen next step. And I don't think that is necessarily the case in these kinds of careers. And I think that can be really challenging, in addition to the challenges of working in the types of places and contexts that people in this field tend to work.
So while we were talking about the challenges, I'm also curious about the rewarding moments, or what kind of moments you see that, yes, this is my option, I would like to pursue or choose this struggle.
So I think ultimately, the most rewarding moments are actually probably not the biggest moments. I really, really enjoy being in the field. So this is why I know I'm a good researcher, right? I'm in a good position for the kind of person I am. I love being in the field. I love talking to people. I get very energized from doing interviews and engaging with people and learning. I really like when I feel like I've answered a question. But I think some of the most rewarding moments have also been seeing that people who have worked with me, like as a research assistant, move on and go to a next step. So I've had my research assistant in Ghana is now doing a PhD. I hired 2 people in Afghanistan that have ended up, one of them is now doing a PhD in, I believe he's in Switzerland now, which that was a big fight in of itself to get him there, given what happened in Afghanistan. And so this is also why I think I'm in a good spot in terms of research, because I'm now formally mentoring students. And so I think I also really like that experience. And I enjoy when, maybe not myself, but it's rewarding when the people that you're working with and kind of mentoring are successful. And so I really enjoy that part of this job.
I mean, since you are mentioning that you like working with young people and giving some mentorship, which is so valuable. So I would like to ask your recommendations to young people who will watch this interview and get inspired by your story.
My advice is, it's okay to be anxious and scared, because we all are. And anyone who's saying that they got here just because they just knew it was going to happen is lying, right? Again, this is part choice, part accident that people end up in these kinds of places. And so it's okay to, doubt these transitions. And I think too, the other advice I would have is, I was always like, well, what skills do I have, right? I have all of these really random and weird experiences in a lot of different places. And I didn't see those as skills that could be applied to a lot of jobs. But, reflecting back, the amount of experience and knowledge that you end up gaining from all of these different countries and interacting with all these people, never underestimate how valuable that is and how many different contexts it can be applied. So if you think that I'll have to be an academic researcher or I have to do this in order to work in this field, I think that's really shortchanging yourself, because there are just really a vast, and my students now remind me of this, because I was like, do I want to be a researcher forever? And they're like, you could take your knowledge and your experience and your skills and basically apply it to anything. And so I think rather than, fearing that you've become too specialized or you're holden to a place that you can't get out of, which is sometimes how I have felt, that actually this is a very kind of generalizable and important field of study that could be valuable to a lot of different, careers and career opportunities.
Thank you very much. I think many people will appreciate it a lot. And I would like to ask you whether are there any memorable moments from your experience that you get these insights? Like it can be a specific project or specific experience, field, anything else.
Specific, what kind of insight? Like a good insight or a bad insight or any insight?
Anyone, anything.
I think this is just a collection of insights from different periods of time in my life. I think I was emboldened by the many failures I experienced in my PhD research, right? My PhD research was initially supposed to be done in South Sudan on conservation and conflict. And with the kind of descent back into a very long and protracted conflict, I had to move, and I kept having to, anyone who knows me, right, my PhD story was long and horrid. It was like I kept having to move countries because, right, we had the South Sudanese conflict, and then the Ebola epidemic, and finally I ended up in Ghana, and people are like, why are you in Ghana? And I was like, I don't know, right? So that was kind of an empowering insight that things can go really, really wrong and you can still figure out how to make it right. But I would say, I don't know if there's, any one moment where I was like, oh, this is the career, or this is the, best place for me to be. I just think, sadly, I'm old enough at this point where I've had enough accumulated experiences where it starts to make a little bit more sense, especially as you're able to look backwards. And I'm also in a position now where I can build on those insights and start to make more kind of conscious choices rather than just like things happening to me. Like, sure, I'll go to Afghanistan. Right. I start to like build on those experiences and make purposeful next steps in terms of what I want to learn and what I want my research to kind of examine.
I mean, since, as you mentioned, there are many rich experiences, and I think many people, including myself, are very curious about your future experiences. So in this regard, I would like to ask you, what are your goals for the future, personally, professionally, especially in the field of environmental peace building?
I think one of my primary goals in terms of environmental peace building is to understand how it works and to be able to answer some of those questions a bit better, right? I still think I come at environmental peace building from a real interest in the relationship between state and society. I've started to incorporate a lot more environmental justice theory into my research. And so that's really started to inform the kind of more institutions and political science scholarship that I did throughout my PhD dissertation journey. And so, right, what does it actually mean to build peace, and what does the environment really have to do? I mean, that was the question that started me on this path from Afghanistan, and I still don't fully understand it or think that I've answered it. And so that is something that I will continue to kind of, and I'm someone who drills down very deep into kind of empirical field research. And so I will probably continue to do that, probably throughout my career. And I've, and I just submitted a paper recently, and it was like, I can start to see like a pattern. So if people had been reading my writing and you didn't know who had written this article, I was like, oh, I bet you could tell that McKenzie Johnson wrote this article, because you start to, right, I'd like start to see a established like pattern of scholarship. And then my other goal, and this has been my goal from the beginning, is just to kind of really, part of the reason why I'm turning to work in the United States is really dismantling this idea that there is somehow a huge difference in terms of how a country, like environmental governance happens in a country like the United States versus a country in the quote unquote global South. I've never believed in this idea. And so part of this is I've trying to understand kind of institutional change governance in the US context to really kind of take on and tackle this idea that there's a significant difference, or that it's somehow better, which I still think, despite how erroneous it is, still permeates both the field of environmental peace building and environmental governance. And so that's kind of a big picture like direction for me as well.
Thank you so much. This is the end of the interview, and on behalf of the entire team at the Environmental Peacebuilding Association, we sincerely appreciate your time and your valuable contribution. It was an honor to have you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.